I've just lost my boyfriend, Billy. He was going to ask to marry me. I thought, get in there while you still got a pulse. All the time we were courting, he never called me Elsie. Always his wife's name, Teresa. Oh, I got used to it. He had that dementia. We used to go for a walk and he'd talk about the old days. And I felt I'd been up in that caravan and sea houses and had 4 bairns to him. They never visited. I asked one of them why not. She said she found it upsetting. Our own father. Well, I'm glad I didn't have her as a daughter. I know some women would say, why do you want the bother of looking after an old man? But I wouldn't have any bother because they'd look after him in here. I've never been married. And it's one of my ambitions before I go. Oh, I don't mean go from here to another residential home. I mean go to the creme, 20 minutes in and out back here for a sausage roll and some weak tea. I don't think it's too much to ask, is it? And I'd like it to say Mrs. on me death certificate. It's funny saying boyfriend when Billy was nearly 80. He'd been a shipwright. Oh, I must have built a dozen ships with him walking round that little garden out there. And he could remember every detail of every ship he built. But he couldn't remember what day it was. I'm 82. Oh, I know. I've looked after myself. I'm in good nick. I've never drank and I've never smoked. Well, I don't see the need for it. My first boyfriend, when I was 18 years old, he said he wanted to smoke a pipe because it was fashionable. Oh. I said, it's either the pipe or me. I never missed him. The thing I like being in here is the way they keep changing the stuff. In the 5 years and 3 months I've been in here, there's been 17 different women working on my floor. And every one of them a floozy. Oh, talking and giggling with the men. I could tell you things would turn your hair grey. But Billy only wanted me in the end. But I had to go a bit deaf when he wanted a cigarette. I used to talk to Billy about my past because I knew we wouldn't remember anything. I'd tell him something and 10 minutes later he'd forgotten every word. I like that. Nobody knowing anything about me. I worked away during the war, down Birmingham. Oh, this lad, he was always chasing after me. Big he was. Big head, big nose, big ears. When he was up close, it was like having a magnifying glass in front of your face. He kissed me once. Once was enough. It was like kissing an elephant. He proposed. Oh, God, I thought fancy having bairns with elephant faces. I wouldn't have been able to sleep at night. He drank. Oh, he said he didn't, but he did. I caught him one Christmas. He said he'd only had one sherry. Oh, no, that was it. Do you know, I can't even remember his name. But for months I used to dream of waking up with an elephant in bed beside me. Billy never drank in here, but I had a hard time stopping him. One of the Floozies used to give him cigarettes. Oh, I reported her. She called me all the names under the sun, but I saw her husband when he came to pick her up. Ha! Beer belly, nicotine fingers, why, a real treasure. They've got a new man coming in. His family came round and they liked the place. And they stood outside that door, talking, and one of them cried. He's a chronic asthmatic. That's all I could hear. On the day of Billy's funeral, his whole family turned up. Well, I hadn't seen them for months. Hypocrites. There they were, smoking and drinking and saying how Billy never used to get out to go to the club for a drink and looking at me. Well, I could have told them a few home truths, but I decided against it. And I didn't go to the cemetery because he was being buried with Teresa. Would have been like burying myself. Anyway, after Birmingham, I went to London. It was just one big ashtray. I went into a pub once with a fella from work. Oh, he smoked like a chimney, drank like a fish. I thought I could change him, but let me tell you, it never works. I caught him on his stag night, the day before our wedding, smoking and drinking in a pub. And I watched him through the smoky windows, and he was smoking and laughing. Well, I went in there, gave him back his ring, came out, went back to me lodgings and packed me bag. Best day's work I've ever done. If you catch them on the first day, it makes a good impression. A smiling face, a caring voice, I hope you will be happy here. I like to be your friend. And then I open my arms wide and I smile, a bigger smile. And the manager says, "Oh, here comes the welcoming committee." But the staff like what I do. I can tell. Well, after London, I went back home. I didn't stay with me family, no. They'd moved when I didn't have their address. And I think Christmas cards are such a waste of money. I worked in the civil service, had my own section. It was the most efficient in the place. All girls, none of them married. I discouraged it. I used to have them in my office and explain to them all the pitfalls of marriage. And I said, well, you wouldn't get a reference from me. None of them smoked, none of them drank. I used to check their fingernails for nicotine stains. I liked to stamp it out before it could begin. So, when Billy's family came back from his funeral and they stood there saying how I had stopped him enjoying his last months and not letting him get out or go to the club for a pint. Well, they presented me with a bottle of whiskey and a box of cigars. Oh, I wouldn't have them in my room. I sold them to the staff. He's coming. I hope you will be happy here. I'd like to be your friend. He's been a good-looking man in his time. They say he's been married twice. And the way he moves in that Zimmer frame, he's like a greyhound out of a trap. But I'll catch him in the end. I always do. This is his room. Very tidy it is. I like that in a man. Trousers neatly folded, shoes polished. You know, I think you can tell a lot about a man from his wardrobe. No smell of cigarettes. Oh, I am impressed. Oh! He's in bed. Well, that's fortunate. Very fortunate. I've been trying to speak to him on several occasions. I think he might be a bit deaf. But, like I said, I catch them in the end. I always do. Hello? Hello? You can't breathe. Oh, I know. I'm just the same. It's old age, you know. Loss of breath, loss of bowel control, incontinence. You just have to live with it. I don't think he's short of breath. He seems to be smiling. I think he wants to kiss me. Well, I don't blame him, and I don't mind if I do. So, we'll just take this mask off. Oh, he's turning blue. But I think he's smiling. Well, I won't call for the nurse because it's just him and me. And his eyes, his eyes, they seem to be saying, "Will you marry me?" Oh. Will you take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife? Just nod. That's right. Will I take this man to be my lawful wedded husband? Oh, oh. I will. I will. Love and marriage, love and marriage, they go together like a horse and carriage. This I tell you, brother, you can't have one. You can't have one. You can't have one without the other.